And welcome to this morning's webinar, the H-1B Scaling Your Apprenticeship and Closing the Skills Gap Applications Introduction and Live Demo. My name is Susan Harden, and I'm with AGS. I will be your presenter today. So let's go ahead and get started. First of all, this is roughly a 25-minute presentation. I'll do my best to keep it within that time frame. I know everyone is very, very busy, and thank you all for taking time from your busy schedules to be with me this morning. I really, really appreciate it. This is a live two-way presentation. So if you have questions, please unmute yourself or use the chat feature, which is being monitored. If you're here through your telephone, please don't put your phone on hold so we don't hear your hold music. That would be great. Here's my contact information and a link to our website that has additional materials, YouTube videos, etc., etc. There's also a handout in the material section of the Go to Training Control panel that has today's presentation on it that given the time frame for these presentations, and I do like to keep them, very quick, very high level. So I'm not going to read everything to you. So if you'd like to have that available, please feel free to download it. It will be emailed again at the end of the session if that's just easier for you. So whatever you prefer. So let's go ahead and get going. So with a picture being worth 1,000 words, these are just some of the logos of some of our Scaling Apprenticeship, Closing the Skills Gap, Tech Hire, SWIFI, and America's Promise Grant customers, a collection of H-1B grantees that we have been working with, in some cases for 4 going on 5 years, with some of these extensions for some of these H-1B grants. So just wanted to kind of put that out there. Maybe some of you recognize some of these names. We are very much H-1B subject matter experts. And today we are going to focus on these learning goals that come directly from your email invitation. So no smoke and mirrors, no changes. I'm going to take some time and sort of run you through or jog us through our turnkey WIPS compliant application that is designed specifically for managing H-1B. And today we're going to focus on H-1B scaling your apprenticeship and closing the skills gap, data collection and reporting. We're going to start first with reports. I'm going to demonstrate, actually show running some of these key reports that I know are really the meat and potatoes of the kinds of things that you are struggling with. Assuming you are, I don't know, otherwise you might not be here. But the real reason why people look for tools like this to help you manage this kind of very complex data. We'll take a look at a couple of dashboards. I'm going to just introduce to you our self-registration module that is heavily leveraged by our customers, both in the times here of COVID, but also just because it helps with some of that initial data collection as you are dealing with some very large numbers for some of these grants. And so having a means to begin that data collection process from a self-register, from a potential apprentice, if you will, can really help that workflow. We will take a look at what the data entry and business logic looks like on the forms themselves. I'll demonstrate, I'll show you what the organization level security looks like and why that's important and has been important for all of our customers over all these years. And then I'll give you just a quick look at what we call the administrator controls. So that's what we are planning to do. So without further ado, I'm going to actually jump over to the application and start to dive in on our agenda. So first of all, here is our application. I've already logged in. When I click on home, it takes me to this home page. This is exactly what all of our customers' sites look like. Of course, they don't have the AGS Prime logo here. They have their own logos and their own text here in this sort of polite welcome screen for the application. And then we see our modules across the top. Home, participant management, where all the apprenticeship data resides, the employer management, where your employer data resides, which is an important aspect for tracking employer outreach, as well as some of your performance outcome measures, your B1, or rather B2 for the number of engaged employers. The administrative module, where those of you who would be considered local administrators have some under the hood access for some tweaking and tuning, and then reports. So if we start here on reports, again, this is where I really want to start today and kind of show off some of the key aspects of this compliant pre-built application. So there's nothing really for you to do. We have the system completely tuned to the federal reporting requirements and business logic and data validation, and we keep it up to date for you as the feds make changes, and they do. So we kind of stay on top of that so you don't have to. So on the reports module, we have a series of what I'll call canned reports, reports that we have pre-built for you, as well as when I click on my queries over here on my navigation panel, we've also pre-created for you dozens of a couple of pages of queries. These are really just pre-built exports and data joins, if you will, for the analysts on the call, to be able to quickly just export and access, sort of your raw data, if you will. And you can create your own queries as well, but we'd like to give you a jump start. On the reports piece here, let me start first and foremost with the one report that everybody's dying to see, I know, which is our WIPS report. So yes, we produce out of Prime your WIPS report, compliant to the T, exactly the way the feds expect it and require it. So you don't have to worry about those spreadsheets or whatever other tool you might be using that may not do it as well as you want it to. We keep this completely up to date. So in our parameters, I'll just run this real quickly for us. I'm going to pick my funding source as my H-1B grant. I'll run it for the current quarter and calendar year that everybody's running theirs now. If I'm doing this for real, I'm not going to include my header, of course. We do have a built-in error validation file. So if you should have any issues, you always have access to this validation process before you ever send anything off to the feds. For the purposes of a demo right now, I'm just going to say, yes, I want to ignore that error file because I know I have an error file, so I can show you what that looks like. But first, we want to run this clean. Don't want any additional fields, and I want it for all staff organizations. So yes, as you're seeing this, you can see you could also run this for individual organizations for your own internal oversight and management as grant managers. Let me go ahead and run this report. This takes just a few seconds to run. And there's my report. I will open this up. And for those of you who by now are probably intimately familiar with the Pearl and what this report looks like, you can get the idea that it runs from column A all the way through our 89 fields, all the way over to column CK, where we have our social security numbers. So what we are doing, of course, in this report is as you are entering data on behalf of your apprentices and they are moving through that process, we will automatically update these apprenticeship fields to denote when the participant, the apprentice has actually become an apprentice according to the business rules for this report. So we'll take care of all of that computation for you in your WIPS report. We also provide for you a QPR, so you don't have to wait for what the feds send back to you to see what your QPR is going to look like. And we always want you to run this to compare it to whatever the feds do send you, so that we can always make sure that the two systems are in sync. Sometimes the feds make changes that they haven't told us about, so we see some discrepancies. So we always want to know that. But generally speaking, this gives you a heads up, and you can stay on top of your QPR and have no surprises, right? That's the goal of all project managers, no surprises. And as the feds make changes to this, this should look very familiar to all of you. As the feds make changes, we keep this up to date as well. I want to show you one other report here, and that is the H-1B Performance Outcome Measures report. So all of you put into your proposal that you are going to manage certain goals per year, maybe even per year per organization, maybe even per year per special population. We give you the ability to load all those goals into your system and then run this report, which then runs, open this up, and allows you to see your projected, what you put in your proposal compared to your actuals, right? And your percent to goal for every outcome measure that you put into your proposal. That was part of the FOA, and color coding to let you visually kind of see where you're, where you are. Green versus red, of course, the typical thing. And in this case, I actually do have a special population for which I said I was going to be managing data. And so this report will also automatically create individual worksheets for each of those special populations. So this report, while not a federally required report per se, gives you as project managers the ability to know where you are compared to where you said you were going to be, and is a great report to use for your Q&R augment report, maybe amongst other reports as well. But this is a report that is very popularly used by our customers to associate to accompany their augment report. Last report I just want to show you is kind of a checkpoint report. It gives you the ability to kind of see at a glance all of your participants who are in the system, and you can kind of see by staff organization and by program name. I'm just going to pick on Abby Zakaria, and you can see these key milestones with red X's and green check marks, kind of where they are sort of at the big picture, so you can get and keep a handle on your data at a big picture across all these, thousands of apprentices. Very, very popular report. So again, the reporting is pretty widely used, heavily dependent upon. Another report, this dashboard report that I promised you to take a look at, a very nice graphical report that our customers love, because it gives you the ability to not only manage data, which of course is key, but also with a graphical report to be a really nice augment report as part of your Q&R, perhaps even as part of a proposal for an additional grant. It can really help you, tell the story. And that's what we want to help you with, is tell your story of success, along with just managing data. Let me take the opportunity at this point to jump over to self-registration and give you a sense of what that looks like. I have this here in my demo, so it's easier to see. Our customers generally will have this self-registration form exposed on their website or their partners' websites, or maybe their project has a website that they're driving people to, and they will have this form here for that initial data collection of participant data. As you can see, this is, some of the data is set here that looks very familiar for the Pearl, with the allowable values and some help text here, et cetera, et cetera. If you want to have people attach certain, verification documents, that's also very popular. You can have multiple attachments, photo IDs, if you wanted to, it's up to you. Resumes, transcripts, those kinds of things we see fairly popular as part of the attachments. If you have consent documents or release forms that you'd like to have added here, that's also very common to be able to put that kind of thing here. And most of our customers who are using self-reg do in fact do that, and we support them through that process. So if self-registration is utilized and we have data coming in, when I click over on my participant management module, I'm going to switch hats. I'm not going to be a staff person, right? And this is what the staff data management environment looks like. So all of our SA and CSG customers are managing consortiums. I don't think there's any of these projects that are not consortia. Some small, some very large, national, some, in-state with just a couple of schools, et cetera, and kind of everything in between. So from what you're seeing here, then, this is as a web-based tool with no proprietary hardware or software needed except a browser. And we do prefer Chrome or Chromium-based Edge. They're browsers that keep their security settings up to date, and that's always a good thing, right? But this is going to be a consolidated client tracking environment that all of your partner agencies and the staff within those agencies who they have charged to do some data entry will be utilizing this consolidated, centralized case management or client tracking environment that you, as managers of the data, as administrators of the database, if you will, have everybody doing data entry, maybe across the country or across your states or your regions, however your projects are organized, but everybody's living in the same database. Our customers all reside in Amazon Web Services, AWS, and all of our customers have their own virtualized server. So there is no commingling of data. So Alabama data is not mixed in with Missouri data, is not mixed in with Idaho data or anything like that, right? In terms of our customers, everyone is segregated with your own IP address, your own hard-walled, a single tenant environment. Okay, I just want to make sure that's very clear. Unlike Salesforce, not to pick on Salesforce, but they are what's a very well-known multi-tenant environment where everybody kind of lives in the same database, and we only see our data based on our user credentials. We are fundamentally different. Everyone has their own dedicated database of our customers. So you're all living together in your own database. And so when I log in as an administrator, I see all of the data from all of the staff organizations over here in my staff organization column. When your partner agencies log in, they're only going to see data, let's say, from staff organization 2, if those staff users belong to staff organization 2. If those staff people belong to staff organization 1, they'll log in and only see data from staff organization 1 for data they've put in or data that their colleagues who all belong to staff organization 1, assuming there's more than one data entry person, they'll just see that silo, if you will. But those of us who log in as administrators, we see all the data because we have to see everything, right? So that's that organization level security that we have baked into this application and always have had for all of our H-1B customers going back for years, because we know that is vital. It's a vital attribute for security and PII. So that is always something we support. So here I am looking at my validated participants. I want to play with my customer whose last name is Test. Imagine that, right, in a demo. So let me go ahead and open up my participant named Susan Test. So I'll open up Susan's case folder, right, by clicking on this little green folder icon. So this is sort of the electronic case folder. Like I've gotten up out of my chair and walked over to the file cabinet, pulled out the T drawer, opened up the manila file folder for Test, Susan, walked back to my desk, right, and I see all these paper clipped sections of document types or categories, right? Some categories I have a document in, like I have a program, I have no services or assessments or training or credentials. Not yet, as we're going to build that out in the case folder, right? So we start with the participant's profile. This looks very familiar because it's the same essentially the same form from self-reg. So a self-reg person enters something and it automatically creates this profile waiting for a staff person to approve, right? So we have that built-in workflow as well to help support your business process. So on these forms, again, for those of you who have studied the Pearl, you know you've got fields here that are specifically Pearl fields with the only allowed values. We take the help text directly from the Pearl itself, and we can modify this if you want to have personal email or cell phone, set as required, no problem at all. We go back to her program form. So we start with demographics. Who are you? And then what program are you going to be enrolled in? So we inherit the person's name. You define your program names, your funding source, and this should look very familiar. So this is that part of the pre-built template that really works for you, where we have the Pearl fields, the only allowed values. And yes, these values are converted for your WIPS file into zeros and ones and sans none and sans one, et cetera, et cetera. All those codes, we take care of all of that for you, including all the help text that comes once again from the Pearl for all these fields. Here's where it gets fun. Where we have these business rules baked into the form, into the fields. If I'm putting in data entry as a staff person out in one of your partner agencies somewhere, you don't want to have them required to memorize all these business rules. And you certainly don't want to be cleaning up data the week before your WIPS report is due, right? So we bake into all of these fields and forms business rules based on the Pearl, so that we're not going to allow bad data entry. So if I say this person is unemployed status at program entry, they cannot be an underemployed worker as well. And if I say they're a recipient of incumbent worker training, I get even more errors. So we put this right on the form as errors. The save button is no longer live, so we can't save the record with bad data. And we tell the staff person exactly what needs to be done in order to correct the record. We have our apprenticeship training information for all of the required fields for this, this part of the program. And then we're going to keep track of training records with our ONET codes. If we don't know ONET, we give you a link right out to ONET as a separate window, so it doesn't close Prime, so it keeps it nice and simple for doing data collection. Again, all of the required fields, your primary, close that up a little bit, your primary, secondary, and tertiary type of training. Because this participant is a registered apprentice, we can't change this because that would be a WIPS error, right? So we just want to make sure you see some of that. I'm going to jump over to my module here and let you see how we handle debt security. So if I have security groups set up where someone's a local admin where they see everybody, but other people in your partner agencies are not local admins, they're going to be either have access to the participant management module or the employer manager, right? Case manager or employers, but not local admins, so that organization level security is completely enforced. Here, as an administrator, I decide, you decide who has access to what. Okay, super simple. As you can see, the environment is intuitive. It's easy to understand. It's easy to make changes. And you can see exactly here from your user list who's in what group. I just have a couple of users in my system. The employer management piece is very much the same as a case management environment, where we're keeping track of work experience and apprenticeship openings, as well as on the employer profile, we're keeping track of this engagement date. the date on which the employer committed to engage in the apprenticeship. This helps us calculate that B2 real-time performance outcome measure for you in your reporting. Let me run back to, I'm trying to be sensitive to time. And we kind of did a quick jog through a few of these items, or most of these items, I think. So as a quick recap, we've been doing this for 20 plus years. We work with 34 plus H-1B grants, nearly 200 community colleges. Hopefully you have seen in this quick run through the pre-built application, the template, that there's no development work. We can turn your system on and get your training started within a matter of days. Very fast turnaround. And as the data is being put in, your WIP's reporting capability is immediately at your fingertips. So it's very straightforward. We keep the system, up to date in terms of WIP's compliance, your CSV file generation. Hopefully you've seen some key functionality that is appealing to you to help you with your process and your project going forward. We do provide a tremendous amount of support, web-based training, user group meetings once a month, and unlimited and ongoing system administrator support. That's something we've always supported for all of our customers in the 22 years we've been in business. So thank you very, very much. I know this was super quick fire, but I do want to be sensitive to time, and I've already gone a couple of minutes over, and for that I apologize. But thank you very much for being here. I don't have any questions chatted in at the moment. I know this is really quick fire, but here's my contact information. There's a quick, I think, 3 or 4 question survey here at the end. If you would just give me a little bit of feedback, that would be super helpful. Again, thank you so much. We'd love to work with you. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to email me afterwards, and I will be here to help you. Thank you. Have a wonderful day, everybody. And again, thank you so much for your time. And thanks for everything that you do. Good luck. Take care. Bye-bye.